You've lived in that house for 12 years. You've painted it, fixed things up, kept it clean, taken care of it the best you could. You list it, you get an offer, and you're feeling good. Then the inspection report comes back, and suddenly you're looking at a list of problems you didn't even know existed. And the buyer wants $15,000 off the asking price before they'll move forward. That's a gut punch. And the worst part? Most of those surprises were completely preventable. Hit subscribe before we begin, because if you're thinking about selling in the next 6 months, 12 months, or even a couple of years, this video is going to save you real money. I'm Jerry Davis, and I've been in construction and renovation for a long time. I've worked on hundreds of homes. I've talked to dozens of inspectors, and I've sat across the table from sellers who were genuinely blindsided by things that were sitting right there in plain sight the whole time. The inspection process is one of the most stressful parts of selling a home, but it doesn't have to be, because once you know what inspectors are actually looking for, you can get ahead of it. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. By the end of this video, you'll know the 7 most common inspection surprises that cost sellers money, why they catch people off guard, and what you can actually do about them before that inspector ever sets foot in your house. Let's start with the one that kills more deals than almost anything else: the roof. Now, most homeowners look at their roof from the ground and think, looks fine to me. And here's the thing, it might look fine from the street, but inspectors get up there with binoculars, or they go up on that roof, and they're looking at things you never thought to check. Missing granules on the shingles, flashing that's pulling away from the chimney, soft spots around the vents, lifted shingles near the ridge. These are not dramatic problems, but they show up in the report as deferred maintenance or signs of wear, and buyers use that as leverage. If your roof is 15 years or older, you need to get a roofer up there before you list. Not to do a full replacement necessarily, but to do an honest evaluation and fix what can be fixed. A couple $100 in flashing repair and a small section of replaced shingles could save you from a buyer demanding $5,000 off the price. Or worse, walking away completely. Roof issues create doubt. And once a buyer has doubt, it's hard to get the deal back on track. Now, let's talk about something that almost every seller overlooks because it's invisible: the crawl space or basement. This one drives me nuts because it's so consistent. People do a beautiful job getting the main living areas of their home ready to show. Fresh paint, clean carpets, staged furniture. And then the inspector goes under the house and finds moisture, standing water, wood rot, or signs of pest damage. All of that beautiful staging becomes irrelevant the second the buyer reads that report. Here's what no one tells you. A crawl space that has minor moisture issues is a manageable problem. You add a vapor barrier, you improve drainage, maybe you add a vent or two, and you're done. But if you ignore it, and the moisture has been sitting there for years, you're looking at wood rot, possible mold, and structural concerns. That's not a small fix anymore. If you have a crawl space, go under there, or pay someone to go under there, before your listing goes live. If you see dark staining on the joists, if the wood feels soft, if there's standing water or heavy condensation, address it now. A good vapor barrier installation might cost you $1,000 to $1,500. Leaving the problem alone could cost you 5 times that in buyer negotiations. Here's another one that catches sellers completely off guard: the electrical panel. Most people assume that if the lights are on and nothing's tripping breakers, the electrical is fine. And I understand that logic. I really do. But inspectors know exactly what they're looking for inside that panel. And a lot of homes, especially homes built between the 1960s and the 1980s, have issues that are not obvious to the homeowner, but are red flags to an inspector and an insurance company. Double-tapped breakers, where 2 wires are connected to a breaker that's only rated for 1, are incredibly common and incredibly easy to miss if you don't know what you're looking at. Federal Pacific stab lock panels are a known concern that inspectors flag every single time they see one. Aluminum wiring in the branch circuits is another one that shows up in homes from that era and sends buyers reaching for a credit. None of these things may have caused a problem in your home in 30 years of living there, but the moment it shows up in an inspection report, the buyer's agent is going to tell them it's a liability. Get an electrician to look at your panel before you list. A lot of these fixes are cheaper than you think. Double-tapped breakers might cost a few $100s to correct. That's a reasonable spend to keep your deal clean. Let's talk about water heaters and HVAC systems, because this is where sellers really leave money on the table. Look, I get it. Your furnace has been running every winter and your water heater's been delivering hot showers. You don't think about replacing something that's working. But inspectors note the age of every mechanical system in the home, and buyers calculate the remaining useful life. A water heater that's 14 years old is going to get flagged. The average lifespan is 8 to 12 years, depending on the type and the quality of your water. An HVAC system that's 18 years old is going to get flagged. The buyer is going to start thinking, what do I need to replace in the next 2 years? And they're going to ask you to help pay for it. Here's a pro tip. If your water heater is over 10 years old, just replace it before you list. A new 40 or 50-gallon unit runs between $800 and $1,500 installed. That is a worthwhile spend because it eliminates a negotiating point entirely. For HVAC, at minimum, get a service tune-up and have the technician write a service report. If the system is aging but running well, that documentation gives buyers confidence. And if it needs refrigerant or a new capacitor, fix it now so it doesn't show up as a deficiency. Now let's get into one that's sneaky. And I mean genuinely sneaky, because it hides in areas most sellers never think to inspect themselves: bathroom and kitchen caulking, tile grout, and the areas around windows and exterior doors. Here's the problem. Water gets into places it shouldn't, and it does it slowly over months and years. The caulk around your master shower that's been cracking for 2 years, the grout around the tub surround that's been deteriorating, the window in the guest bedroom where the seal has been failing, and the wood sill underneath has started to soften. These things are so easy to walk past every day and not notice because you're used to them. But an inspector is going to look at every single one of those areas specifically because they know water intrusion is one of the leading causes of structural damage in homes. And when they find evidence of water intrusion, even minor evidence, buyers assume the worst. They start thinking mold, they start thinking rot, they start thinking, what else is behind those walls? Don't give them that opening. Walk through your home before you list with a critical eye and look at every place where water touches a surface. Re-caulk the tub, re-grout where it's needed, replace that sill if it's soft. These are low-cost, high-impact fixes that eliminate an entire category of concern from the inspection report. This is where people mess up all the time, and it's something that almost no seller thinks about. Permits. Specifically, work that was done without permits. You bought the house 15 years ago, and the previous owner had finished the basement. Looked great when you moved in. You've been using it as a rec room ever since. Or maybe you added a deck 5 years back, and your buddy, who's a carpenter, did the work and you figured it's just a deck. It'll be fine. Inspectors are not permit checkers, but they are trained to identify work that does not appear to have been done to code. And when a buyer's agent hears the words unpermitted addition or unpermitted deck, they panic, and the buyer panics with them. Because unpermitted work means the municipality has not signed off on it, which can mean it doesn't meet safety standards, which can mean their insurance company has questions, and which can mean their lender has questions. It becomes a complicated problem fast. Before you list, pull your permit history from your local municipality. Know what was permitted and what wasn't. If there's unpermitted work that's significant, talk to a contractor about what it would take to get it properly permitted and inspected. Sometimes it's straightforward, sometimes it's not. But knowing ahead of time gives you options. Not knowing means you're reacting under pressure in the middle of a deal. And yes, I know some of you are going to disagree with me on this next one, but hear me out. Attic insulation and ventilation. This is one of the most consistently flagged issues I've seen in inspection reports, and it's one of the least glamorous things a homeowner ever thinks about. Inspectors go into the attic every time, and they're looking at three things. Is there adequate insulation? Is there proper ventilation? And are there any signs of moisture or mold? Homes that were built in the 70s and 80s often have insulation levels that fall well below current standards. And improper attic ventilation is one of the most common causes of moisture buildup, which leads to mold on the roof decking. That is not a small problem. When a buyer sees mold in the attic, they call their insurance agent. Some insurance companies will not insure a home with active mold until it's remediated. Remediation can be expensive. The deal can fall apart. Here's what I want you to do. Get into your attic before you list, or have someone do it for you. Check the insulation levels. A good target is R38 to R60 in most climates, depending on where you live. Make sure your soffit vents are not blocked by insulation and that your ridge vent or gable vents are clear. If you see any staining or dark spots on the roof decking, have a professional evaluate it. Don't guess. Adding insulation to bring the attic up to standard is not an expensive project in most homes, and it actually gives you a selling point on energy efficiency while eliminating a red flag at the same time. Now let's talk about one final category that surprises sellers every single time: grading and drainage around the foundation. People get so focused on the interior of the home that they never walk around the outside with a critical eye and look at how the ground is sloping. And here's what matters. The ground around your foundation should slope away from the house, not toward it. It sounds basic, but over years, landscaping settles, mulch builds up, soil erodes and shifts, and what used to slope away starts to slope toward the foundation. When that happens, every rainstorm sends water directly toward the base of your home. Inspectors flag this every time because improper grading is a leading cause of water intrusion in basements and crawl spaces. Fixing it is usually not complicated. You're adding or regrading soil to create that positive slope away from the house. In most cases, it's a few $100s in material and labor. But if you leave it, buyers see it in the report. They think about foundation issues. They think about water in the basement, and they start renegotiating or walking. Don't let something that simple become a deal breaker. Tell me in the comments which one of these you were not thinking about, because I guarantee at least 2 or 3 of them just made you think twice about something in your own home. Look, selling a home is stressful enough without getting blindsided by things you could have dealt with ahead of time. The inspection is not the enemy. It's actually doing you a favor by telling you what's there. The question is whether you find out before you list, when you have time to fix things on your terms, or after you're already in a deal, when you're under pressure and the buyer has all the leverage. Get ahead of it. Walk your home with fresh eyes. Bring in a roofer, an electrician, a plumber if you have concerns. It is always cheaper to fix before the inspection than it is to negotiate after. 1. That's the real takeaway from today. A well-prepared seller is a confident seller, and a confident seller gets to the closing table without giving away money they didn't have to give. If this was useful to you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's getting ready to sell, because I promise they need to hear this before they list. I'll catch you in the next one.